You saw some situations where like Caitlin's stuck guarding Kelsey and Kelsey's, knocking her off the ball and Caitlin gets called for a foul and she starts yelling at the refs like she's grabbing me, and all of the coaches from WNBA teams who were sitting there watching are just cracking up. Kelsey had one situation where she sort of finished through traffic. She'd been struggling a little bit, got through to the hoop, just like yells right in like Becky Hammon and Nikki Fargas's face, and they're just like cracking up, like like classic Kelsey.
Watch that moment again. Caitlin Clark guarding Kelsey Plum, bodies colliding. The refs whistle, and then Caitlin immediately starts yelling about Kelsey grabbing her. Meanwhile, every WNBA coach sitting courtside is laughing because they know exactly what's happening here. This is two players fighting for the same roster spot, and neither one is backing down. This wasn't some friendly scrimmage. This was USA Basketball's training camp in North Carolina, and reporter Sabrina just dropped details that have everyone talking because the way she describes what happened. Caitlin Clark didn't just show up to this camp, she dominated it.
Obviously, she suffered just a bevy of injuries in her sophomore season, played her last game on July 15th, even before All-Star Weekend. This was her first real 5-on-5 action since that injury with the fever, and it was a combination of like USA players going against USA players and then also USA players going against the scout team, which was just like players from small colleges all across North Carolina sort of helping out with that scout team practice. And she looked like Caitlin, right? Like the step back three was there, the passes were there. When she was not playing with Aaliyah Boston.
Let's establish the timeline here. Caitlin Clark's last game was July 15th, 2024. That's before All-Star Weekend even happened. She missed the entire second half of the season with injuries. No 5-on-5 basketball for months. And this training camp was her first real action back. So when Sabrina says some of the bigs couldn't handle Caitlin's passes, that's not surprising. We saw that exact problem during Caitlin's rookie season with the fever. But here's what makes this interesting. Even players who've never played with her before are experiencing the same learning curve. That tells you something about the level she operates at.
And some of the bigs didn't know what to do with her passes. Like there was one time where she passed it to Hamby and Hamby like brought the ball down. It's like, you can't do that. Like this is not, you have to keep it up, right?
Straight up, right.
Just like not expecting, where that was coming. But FIBA, naturally, just a lot more physical than other levels of basketball, even more physical than the WNBA, which is, something to be said considering all the conversations we had about that level of physicality during this 2025 season. So having to see Caitlin like go at scouting players who were, instructed to play at a FIBA level of physicality was interesting considering how long she's been out and the fact that she's still ramping up injury-wise, but she looked good.
Now this is the critical detail everyone needs to understand. The scout team at this camp wasn't playing regular basketball. They were instructed to play at FIBA level physicality. And according to Sabrina, FIBA is more physical than the WNBA. Think about that for a second. We spent the entire 2024 season talking about how physical the WNBA was getting, the flagrant fouls on Caitlin, the body checks, the constant contact, and FIBA is apparently even worse. So Caitlin Clark, coming off months of injury recovery, is facing the most physical basketball possible, and she's still executing her signature moves. The step back three is there. The passes are threading through traffic. She's yelling at refs when she gets fouled. That's not non who's rusty. That's someone who's ready.
Really like telling media members how nice it was just to like talk to them again and like that she was just part of the basketball process, even if that includes all of these other responsibilities.
So there you have it, fam. Caitlin Clark been an absolute beast at the training camp. Shout out to her, man. Now, I already kind of knew Kelsey Plum and Caitlin Clark was going to be going after it. All right. Those are two players battling for that one position, right? And these are two players that absolutely asked crowds to give it to them, all right? If we remember Kelsey Plum turning around to Spike Lee saying, hey, you need to give me some more of that. Nah, speak up, man. I need to hear that, S. Right? I need to hear it.
Here's where the Erica Hamby moment becomes important. Sabrina mentions Caitlin passing to Hamby and Hamby bringing the ball down instead of keeping it up. And apparently the response was immediate. You can't do that with Caitlin's passes. Let me explain why this matters. When Caitlin throws a pass, she's not just getting you the ball, she's putting it exactly where you need it to score immediately. That's why Aaliyah Boston had such success with her. Boston understood that when the ball hits your hands from Caitlin, you go straight up with it. No bringing it down, no extra dribbles. Just catch and finish. But players who haven't developed that chemistry yet, they're bringing the ball down out of habit. And in FIBA basketball, with that level of physicality, bringing the ball down means you're getting stripped or blocked. Hamby learned that lesson in real time. This isn't just about Caitlin being a good passer. This is about her operating at a level where even professional players need time to adjust to her vision and timing.
And we wrote about that on the site, just like how people have been perceiving the negotiations and what still affects them and what they're thinking about with regards to the new collective bargaining agreement. But for now, just good time at camp, 3 days in North Carolina, a little snow on one of the days, just a little taste of the winter in the South. But
Right.
yeah, it was interesting just to see what Carol Lawson is prioritizing in terms of how she wants to make her imprint on this program.
But let's go back to that opening moment with Kelsey Plum, because there's subtext here that matters. These are two guards competing for roster spots, and both of them have massive personalities. Kelsey Plum once turned around and called out Spike Lee during a game, telling him to speak up. Caitlin Clark had an entire opposing crowd yelling at her in college, and she fed off it, then shut them up completely. So when you put these two together in a competitive environment, of course there's going to be intensity. The coaches are laughing because they recognize what they're seeing. This is what elite competition looks like. This is what you want in a training camp. And here's the uncomfortable question. Nobody's asking. If Caitlin is performing like this, if she's clearly healthy and dominating, then why was she left off the Olympic roster in the first place?
Basketball show, this is where I'm getting this information from. Sabrina, the lady in the middle, was at the camp and she was giving us all the details about Caitlin and Kelsey, what was going down with Caitlin and the bigs, without playing with Aaliyah Boston at times. It's some pretty good stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it right now.
Than in their very near future. And we wrote about that on the site, just like how people have been perceiving the negotiations and what still affects them and what they're thinking about with regards to the new collective bargaining agreement. But for now, just good time at camp, 3 days in North Carolina.
Remember what happened earlier in 2024. Caitlin Clark was cut from the Olympic team. The official explanation was about experience and roster construction, but then Jerrica Hamby made comments about politics being involved in USA basketball decisions. Those comments got buried in the news cycle, but they never got answered. Now we're watching Caitlin at this training camp, and according to Sabrina's reporting, she's not just participating, she's excelling against FIBA-level physicality, against Olympic-caliber players, after months away from competitive basketball, and she's still the same player who broke NCAA records, who transformed WNBA viewership, who averaged 19 points and 9 assists in her first 5 games of her second season before injuries derailed everything. So the question becomes, what exactly was the criteria for that Olympic roster? Because if it was pure basketball ability, the evidence we're seeing now doesn't support leaving her off.
So there you have it, fam. Caitlin Clark been an absolute beast at the training camp. Shout out to her, man. Now, I already kind of knew Kelsey Plum and Caitlin Clark was going to be going after it. All right, those are two players battling for that one position, right? And these are two players that absolutely asked crowds to give it to him. All right, if we remember Kelsey Plum turning around to Spike Lee saying, hey, you need to give me some more of that. Nah, speak up, man. I need to hear that, S. Right, I need to hear it.
Let's talk about what this means for Caitlin's third season, because that's what everyone should be focused on now. Sabrina mentioned that Caitlin was smiling throughout this camp. She was happy to be back. She was engaging with teammates, enjoying the basketball process again. After everything that happened in her second season, that matters. Think about what her second season could have been if she'd stayed healthy. She had a triple-double early in the year. She was averaging 19 points and 9 assists through the first 5 games. The Fever were building chemistry, then the injuries started. The plantar fasciitis, the constant day-to-day uncertainty, the conspiracy theories about whether the team was holding her out for other reasons. It became exhausting to follow. But now she's healthy, she's getting real game action against elite competition, she's facing FIBA physicality and still executing at a high level, and most importantly, she's enjoying basketball again. Here's what that combination produces. A third-year Caitlin Clark, who's more experienced, more physically prepared for contact, and more motivated than ever. The WNBA better be ready. Because if she stays healthy for a full season, we're about to see what she's actually capable of when everything clicks. The step-back three that was working at training camp, that's going to be falling in games. The passes that were threading through FIBA-level defense, those are going to create even more opportunities in WNBA games. The competitive fire that had her yelling at refs during a scrimmage, that's going to fuel her through an entire season. And here's the thing about Caitlin that makes her different. She doesn't just want to be good. She wants to prove people wrong. Every doubt becomes motivation. Every criticism becomes fuel. So after being left off the Olympic team, after dealing with injury questions all last season, after watching other players get opportunities she didn't, you think she's not coming into year 3 with something to prove? The WNBA spent 2024 learning how to defend her. Teams developed schemes specifically to stop her, and she spent the offseason studying that film, adjusting her game, and apparently working on handling even more physicality than the WNBA throws at her. That's not a player who's satisfied. That's a player who's evolving. Watch what happens when the Fever get her actual help in the offseason. Watch what happens when she has a full training camp to build chemistry with her teammates. Watch what happens when she's not playing through injuries for half the season. Because the version of Caitlin Clark we saw at this USA basketball camp, that's the baseline. That's her starting point, and she only gets better from there. The coaches watching that camp were laughing at the intensity between her and Kelsey Plum, but they were also taking note because they know what's coming. A healthy, motivated, improved Caitlin Clark is going to be a problem for every team in the league, and there's nothing they can do to stop it except hope she gets injured again. So yeah, let's enjoy the fact that she's smiling and happy right now, because once the season starts, she's going to make a lot of opposing teams very unhappy. And honestly, after everything she's been through, she's earned that right. The question isn't whether Caitlin Clark is going to have a breakout third season. The question is how many records she's going to break along the way. What do you think? Is Caitlin Clark going to dominate her third season, or are the injury concerns still legitimate? And should she have been on that Olympic roster in the first place? Drop your thoughts in the comment. And if you want more WNBA analysis like this, hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started.